Legend tales of a place where the booze flows freely and the stories are always entertaining. If you are bold enough to seek out such a place, head 13 miles down the Tuscan Highway to a tiny blues joint known as the Townsmith Tavern. Once there, enjoy the ride. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to a UA production of Beer, Blues, and Bowl.
Excuse me, you can't say that. You're gonna lose your family-friendly rating. You're gonna corrupt the kids.
BS! A podcast that invites you to grab a cold beverage, pull up a seat, and enjoy time with friends. And here are your hosts, Howard Blues and the Mark Kidder.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Beer, Blues, and BS, the podcast that recognizes the winner of the Battle of the Belts is Grain Belt. I'm your host, Howard Blues, here, as always, with my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, the Mark Kidder. Kidder, how you doing tonight?
I am great because you are here in the flesh.
Well, that is true.
And not just in the flesh. Your flesh is full. The brains, the brawn, it's all here. It's all here for the show, the big show. This show, because clearly the Battle of the Belts was not the big show for tonight. And big show had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and in fact, I think there are going to be people who actually follow us and go, wait, they're doing a special thing on 1 hour.
Yes.
Special.
And this may or may not be an hour show itself. So
that's right. Place your bets now. What ends first? This podcast or the Battle of the Belts?
The rerun.
Which one's shorter? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big question. So let's get right to it. And of course, as our tradition is, a what's on tap, because we need something to drink to get us through it. And tonight, how about you give us the what's on tap? Because you brought us what is on tap for tonight. So tonight's sponsor for what's on tap is Howard Blues.
I don't know if you can call me as a sponsor. This is leftover beer I bought for Christmas.
Okay.
Drink. But I've had it on the show before. You haven't had it on the show, but we have the Shiner Seasonal Candied Pecan. Yeah. So it's a nice dark beer. Has a nice vanilla note to it. We just had, actually, Kidder, the episode that just launched on Friday is the episode I had this on. So
timing.
So, hey, if you want more information about this beer, check out episode 40 of Beer, Blues, and BS. It's a great episode. Features Rude Boy Kyle and, of course, us, but mostly Rude Boy Kyle.
And you can find that, of course, at beerbluesbs.com. BeerBluesBS.com, our home in cyberspace, where you can get the links to all of the shows. Again, BeerBluesBS.com. Good place to check out.
It is.
That merch store is pretty sweet, too.
Mm-hmm.
And even though this isn't a premium live event, we could have worn the premium t-shirts that you can get now on the merch store for Triple B. But, all right, I'm thirsty. So, let's check this out. Obviously, you know what it's all about, but
hey, second bet of the night. Will Howard be able to finish this before the podcast ends?
Ooh,
gosh, we're just full of bets tonight.
Man, if only somebody like DraftKings would get behind this show, we'd be making tens and tens of dollars.
I don't think they ever will, because we kind of mock them.
Oh yeah, there's the vanilla. It's almost like a vanilla additive to a root beer, like not a cream soda, but almost. I like it.
Yeah, no, it's got a lovely smooth taste. It's I've been enjoying it. This has now been my sacrificial for at least one episode. But
awesome.
I ended up with like a 12 pack because I'm like, oh, this is good. People will enjoy this. And everybody who drinks alcohol brought their own alcohol to my Christmas event. And Kidder didn't come, so I have a lot of beer.
You saying I drink a lot?
No, I'm just saying, like, you didn't show up, so like, hey, I bought a 12 pack of seasonal beer for us all to enjoy. And the other people who might have engaged in that are like, nah, I brought my own.
I don't remember what happened, so I apologize officially in front of the camera.
It's all right.
Because my memory doesn't extend back that far now. It was like 8 days ago.
Something like that.
Yeah. So the reason why we're here talking AEW this evening, I have my Full Gear shirt on from the show back in November at the Target Center, which was quite the barn burner of itself. So does tonight's show, the Battle of the Belts, live up to that or any other show? That is the question that we will dissect, along with giving you our expert analysis and tell you our predictions for the matches, a quick breakdown of them, and the results, because I know that's what you're here for. So, should we get it started?
Oh, you're going to make us do predictions? Future, I'm just going to have to make a scoreboard.
Good thing that we have that scoreboard from Full Gear. Just use that one and put an X over and just scribble some text, Battle of the Belts on the top of it or something. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to put that down so I can concentrate.
I was going to say, do you want to just do it maybe all in one?
All in one.
So
yes.
We'll bring up the match.
Yes.
We'll each say who we predicted, then talk about it, and give the results.
Yes. I like your style, Howard. We should do a podcast.
We should. I don't think it would take much planning. We would just wing it the whole time.
Pretty much.
Right.
Wait. Oh, well, welcome to Beer, Blues, and BS. First match on the card for the Battle of the Belts was for the interim TNT Championship. Now, I'm still confused, and I watch the show more than you do. Are you still somewhat confused about adding an interim championship title into this, even though Cody Rhodes is still the TNT champion?
Well, they're actually pulling off what you actually see, because we've talked about this before. AEW tries harder to be an actual sports program. They have records that matter. They have time limits. They do that. If you watch UFC and you follow UFC, you know that if for some reason the champion is injured and can't fight for a long period of time, it's nice to see that we keep that hamster employed.
Yeah, hamster dance. Yeah. So you were saying? I
was saying that if you that AEW, because it tries to keep that sports presentation, if you follow things like UFC, in UFC when they've had a champion get injured, can't defend the title for a while, things like that, instead of vacating that title, they will they'll have an interim title. So they'll put a title out there, let kind of the next two guys go for it. One of them wins it. And whenever then the original champion is healthy and able to come back, they have a unification match, and you kind of get to see champion versus champion. And that's what they decided to do here with the Cody Rhodes situation, which, let me just say, I think that is a great idea, because it now you just have a story, right? It gives you something to build to. And I think it's a nice way to do it and handle this situation. So yeah, I like the idea of it.
Well, that makes a whole lot more sense than let's just do this. So I like it. Okay.
Yeah. So who did you think was going to win going into this?
This one, I picked Dustin Rhodes. I guess I was thinking more along the lines of Dustin would take the title and then retain it, and it would be one of the easy reintegrations, if you will. Or, like you brought up, set up the, hey, maybe it's going to be Rhodes and Rhodes, and then there's going to be some conflict there. But
yeah, and that was kind of how I went on my predictions with this, was trying to look at what are the storylines that could go forward. And in this case, it's two things, really. You could, yes, put the belt back on Sammy, which makes some sense. He just lost it, so you put it back on him. You kind of continue his title run. Okay, that's fine. Until, again, Cody comes back and you have, again, as we said, the unification match. or as I said with you, brother versus brother. Could be an interesting match. I debated. I also went Dusty Rhodes on this one.
And the winner of this AEW TNT Championship match is Sammy Guevara, picking up the win, giving us the total of 0.
So what did you think of the match?
I thought it was good. You know, there were some nice spots in there. Nice show of respect before and after the match, which I appreciate in the wrestling world, because sometimes they just try and be a heel and cheap heat or something and, you know, don't do the handshake or whatnot. But it seemed like this was a genuine match.
Yeah, well, and I think you have to look at it as, for Dusty Rhodes, he's in this company. We all know that he's a veteran, a long-term veteran. This is a chance for him to kind of help Sammy, again, build that title a little bit more. He'd be somebody good, for it. The match was a little slow for my liking, and I kind of get it. They were kind of playing to the, that Dustin Rhodes was trying to be a little bit, more like, I'm the old guy, so I got to take a few more breaks and take a few more breathers. And
that part I thought was kind of cheesy because of like you're not winded 2 minutes into the match. I know.
Yeah, so it was a bit slow paced. I mean, there were some excellent spots in it. They did a table break in it. So, it was all right. And it made sense why this was the opener of this particular show. It was super groundbreaking, but a decent match. So, and of course, it had some shenanigans at the end. After the show of respect, you had, what's his name? Daniel Garcia come out and challenge Sammy, and a little bit of fisticuffs. The Zebras came out and broke it up and all of that. And I'll save my point. I have an overall point.
For the show itself.
Yeah. Something that kind of struck me as we were watching it, but I'll save that for the end.
Sounds good. Yeah. So there is your opening contest of AEW Battle of the Belts 2022. Next up, after commercial break. No, not for this show. We don't have any commercial breaks. They took a commercial break. The second match of the night was Ricky Starks with Powerhouse Hobbs and Matt Sydal for the FTW Championship. This one, first of all, I picked Matt Sydal. And the reason, I was a huge Evan Bourne fan when he was in WWE. Loved his work over in the WWE world until they got rid of him because he doesn't look like what Vince wants to see. So he, I don't know, was working in the independents, I guess, until AEW came around. And kudos to AEW for employing him, because they've had some wonderful matches with him that we've talked about before. So going into this match, I was a little excited. Get to see Matt Sydal on a semi pay-per-view type feel show. Longer match than what you would see on Rampage or even Dynamite. So good on them to schedule this.
And I said I didn't know much about Ricky Starks. And I didn't realize that Matt Sydal was Evan Bourne. So for me, when it came to picking who would win this, I just, as I told Kidder, said, I'm going to choose whoever has the best record. And Ricky Starks had the better record. So I'm like, well, I guess I have Ricky Starks.
Yep.
Which played out well for me, as he would end up getting the pin and I'd get the point.
It's true. So this one, a little bit of shenanigans with Powerhouse Hobbs sitting ringside on the chair. The shenanigans of course, he's there and intimidating, doing that sort of shenanigans off to the side. The match itself, I thought was fine. Some nice spots in it, as what we've seen from Evan Bourne in the past, or even Matt Sydal as he's currently known, doing the high flying and various moves. So I enjoyed this match, except for the outcome.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. You know, it was all right. You know, it's kind of interesting. Yes, this was for the FTW championship. Not a super prestigious championship, I would put it, in the sense, like, these aren't like the top guys having it, you know. This would be like if you actually had like a match for the 24/7 title, you know. And so not to downplay these guys, but it just it lacked the, like, it didn't feel like there was any importance to it, right? It felt like when you're watching, you know, like a Monday Night Raw, and it's like, hey, we're going to have an Intercontinental Championship match against two people, not because they're feuding, but, you know, it's that.
Sure.
Yeah. So that a little lacking on that for me. And of course, at the end of the match, you had Team Taz attacking Sydal. You had Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends come out, and then eventually Dante Martin coming out as well. Yeah. So some more fisticuffs, and the Zebras all got to run out again.
Yeah, for the second time. So again, 0 points for me, and Howard picks up his first point of the night. Bringing us after a commercial break. No, again, not on this show, after they took a commercial break. The main event for the show with a 60-minute time limit, even though there were 16 minutes left. Yes, 60 minutes to fill in 16 total minutes. So this is, again, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, your women's champion in AEW, with Rebel and Jamie Hayter accompanying her to the ring, and Riho. And that is, again, as you mentioned, the original, first ever, I should say, AEW World Women's Championship, or champion holder. So, again, interesting match. Rio's had some great matches that I've been able to see since she came back in the past month or two. Plus, she's like 4 feet tall and 80 pounds, so she's flying around the ring and doing crazy things, like kind of like a little mosquito running around, just doing crazy things, flying through the air and whatnot. So, for this match specifically, I went against the Good Doctor. I chose Rio to win this match because Britt Baker has been the champion since I've been watching the AEW programming. So why not just go out on that limb? As for Howard Blues,
well, and I will say, you know, a good pick, because they did mention in one of the video packages that Britt Baker has never beaten Rio. So, I mean, it's a good call. It's a good call. Again, I looked at this one story-wise, and story-wise, when Rio was the champion, they just didn't do much with her. They didn't really get people behind her, or, you know, that it was a bit lacking. It was one of the things I heard a lot on other shows and such that were following AEW and had AEW podcasts that I was listening to. Like, that was the thing. Well, they have her, but they're not doing anything. They're not developing anything. Meanwhile, Dr. Britt Baker, they've had some storylines with. She's had some strong programs and things like that. It just seemed weird to be passing the title back in that case. So I went with the Good Doctor, as you would say.
Yeah. So throughout the match, this one had the potential for the shenanigans, of course, with Rebel and Jamie Hayter on the edge of the ring. And in fact, at one point, was it Jamie Hayter grabbed the belt and was messing around? It might have been Rebel. Still trying to figure out the difference between the two of them. But grabbed the belt, shenanigans. the official in the match saw the shenanigans and basically figured out that she was going to have the belt and do something with it to Riho. And so, you're out of here. Yes. So that was good. I didn't not quite understand why both of them weren't ejected, because they were both right there and the one had grabbed the belt and threw it to the other one.
Well, I think what they were going at was a bit of
internal conflict.
Exactly. And they were trying to set it up, and it just seemed a bit awkward. Yeah, I don't know what exactly they were going for in that. But yeah, Rebel is the one that they ejected from the match. But yeah, it's like there's some sort of conflict between Rebel and Jamie Hayter, and there wasn't enough. This is one of those times where you need your commentary team to help out a little bit. I mean, I know you can easily, make fun of the WWE because they hit you over the head like you're stupid with, like, hey, we're going to tell you the same thing 5 times, in the course
Make sure you know it.
Right. Because people don't remember this stuff. You got to tell them over. I get that. But at the same time, you do have to lay some of that groundwork and that story, because you have been able to watch. I haven't. So for me coming in, I'm trying to figure this out as I'm watching it. And I could have used just a little bit more, hey, here's a little bit more push in the general direction of what this story is. Even
in a video package right before the match with showing Britt Baker and Riho like they normally do with the promo, but have a few of those elements, because there's been these shows, interviews and different things in the past month or even more where there's been that little tension again of, well, we don't know what's going on with those 3. Okay. I mean, it still doesn't say like, oh, she must be pissed at the other one and different things. You have to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah. I don't know that I'd put it in the video package. And I say that only because that would kind of gives away. Like if it's, hey, it's the matches between these two, but we're going to be focusing on WWE does this all the time.
Yeah.
The side story characters here, you kind of know, it's like, oh, they're going to be involved.
Yeah.
Detracts
from the overall message of the match.
Right. Kind of like when you had, I can't remember which Uso came back late to the Bloodline story, but you had the conflict between them. Yeah. In the video package, you have
Jimmy and Jay and Roman Reigns. And,
right. And Roman, like, hey, you're, and then it's like, oh, well, they're going to, yep. And sure enough, they play into the event. So I can appreciate them not putting it in there. But again, you just could use the commentators. And it would be just a simple, throwaway line of, we've been seeing some internal conflict within, Britt Baker's camp. And it's like, oh, okay, that you don't have to dive into too much more, but that at least goes, oh, okay, there's some conflict here. So even if all you say is, her camp they just don't seem to be on the same page. There's little things you could do that could just
one line to save the story.
Right.
So overall, not a bad match. It wasn't the greatest match, but again, it wasn't a bad match. Some neat spots from Riho, jumping around, flying around, and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So there was that.
Yeah. And I don't think we said who won.
No.
But Dr. Britt Baker does retain the title.
Yes.
So, yeah, it was a good match. Yeah. I don't know that I have a lot more to really go with on it, Some good spots, some good storytelling in at least between the two main components. The side character stuff is, as I said, a little mumbled, but yeah, it wasn't bad. So.
Overall impression of this quick 1 hour, almost live premium event.
Yeah, I think there were some missteps with it, so I'll be a little negative here. So, but here's the thing: it's a 1 hour show, 3 matches. There's a lot of stuff you can do, and I think there was a little bit of a lack of variety in here. You know, we had a table spot in the first match. We had a table spot in the last match. We had, you know, one of the guys getting attacked at the end of the first match. We had, you know, a scrum at the end of the second match.
Mm-hmm.
It just, you know, it had a kind of a sameness feel to it. You know, I understand you're trying to progress some storylines, but it's almost like there wasn't some talking backstage to go, hey, we're doing this in this match. We need to do something different in your guys' match.
Right.
Or, you know, just some of that. And that, I think, was one of the big things that it just stuck out on me. It's like,
Sure.
I'm seeing a lot of similarities for these 3 matches.
Yeah. And on top of it, only 3 titles defended. So to stick up in this case for WWE at Night of Champions, every title is on the line. And while I don't think every title needed to be on the line at this one, I think more of them would have made this more of an attraction. And I don't know if they recorded extra matches afterward that will be on AEW Dark on YouTube, but then to me it detracts from the overall show. And if you're going to have a specialty show that has a pay-per-view feel to it, why is it only 1 hour and why are there only 3 matches?
Yeah. It and I didn't see all of the marketing and such up to Battle of the Belts.
It was nearly 0.
Yeah. It just kind of almost, you know, you need to just almost kind of at least tell people what you were truly getting on this, you know, and you know, that and it's a critique, but it's that idea like, hey, if you're going to do a thing called Battle of the Belts, yeah, it kind of like, oh, this is going to be a big special. This is on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm. And they made it out to be like it was going to be a giant special. Like this is the first time we've ever done this. This is a Saturday night show. This is a big deal with 3 matches.
Yeah.
And you know, everywhere that you looked and I looked for the promotions to figure out what matches were going to be on it, because we were going to do this whole thing last night with just the predictions, and we only found the 3 matches, and we're like, well, they're going to add more of them, and they're going to do something else with it.
Yeah.
And it turns out, obviously, on the show, just the 3 matches. So again, circling back,
right. Well, we were
to the beginning.
Well, we were expecting closer to like a 2-hour event.
Yeah.
You know, so we were a little off on that, but yeah. And not to poke at the people here, but yeah, with the promotion, the way they were doing that, you almost it almost lacked a bit of star power. I mean, I understand you had the women's champion on there, and that's fine. But as I said, there's a title on there that's not as impressive. I maybe would have not had that match and tried to get a bigger title, you know, on there.
Yeah.
So,
Like maybe even the newly won tag team champions.
right.
Have Lucha Express on there, right? Have them defend because they just won it on Wednesday. So what better way to showcase them is to have them defend it right away.
Yeah. I mean, it just felt like it lacked a little bit of star power in it. And again, for that promotion, I will say, I love the fact that AEW is willing to do these specials and put them out on TV. And I mean, they put stuff out on TV that normally like WWE would never do. You know, when you have, you know, Bryan Danielson versus Hangman Page the second time, when you did the first one at a pay-per-view, now you're putting it out just on TV. I mean, that's you don't see that from WWE. They wouldn't do that. And if they did do it, it'd be probably a 3-minute match with some crazy thing that just moves the storyline.
And I don't remember how long the last match was between the two of them as an example, but during the pay-per-view, it was a 60-minute time limit, and it was a draw because they ran out of time. With this one, again, it was a 60-minute time limit, but they settled it in, 30 minutes, but still half that time, right?
Yeah.
And it was a hell of a match.
Yeah.
So I will, to that point, give them the credit for it as well, of putting this stuff on the main show and then trying to really make the actual pay-per-views a larger than life experience. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so I'll give them that. But yeah, for this is the first time I've been able to catch kind of one of these specials, and so I was a bit underwhelmed. And that's maybe why you, for our audience, why you're picking up some negativity from me. It's a bit underwhelming when it's like I've heard of all these great ones that they've done in the past, and they just did a bunch with Winter is Coming, and they did their holiday shows and all that. So this it's almost like they used up all the good stuff there, and it was kind of like
the leftover ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
They also could have used this show in another month, or after, I think, Full Gear, or not Full Gear. What's the next one? Double Down,
Double or Nothing.
Double or Nothing. Maybe I think that's the next one. Maybe even closer to that, or after that. They could have saved this and then had it. Maybe, I mean, even if it was only 1 hour, schedule 4 matches and then try and have a better show. I don't know. Not that it was any bad, but it felt like an episode of Rampage, which again, Rampage is good in its own right, but it's only an hour and you're kind of rushing through a lot of it to do anything to really make your point.
Yeah. Well, and I would say I think if we would have known truly what this was, and if it was one of those things like, hey, we haven't seen you guys in a while, we probably wouldn't have had this happen tonight. I probably wouldn't have come down. We probably would have just covered it on the main show and such. But it's all right. You get more content from us. So.
Get more Triple B. And then as a side note, because afterward I just threw on Rampage from last night, your thoughts comparing tonight's Battle of the Belts to Friday night AEW Rampage?
I actually thought Rampage was better. Just a nicer kind of variety of matches, a little bit more star power in it. It just, I don't know. And it had that variety. As I said, with Battle of the Belts, it kind of felt like they were pulling a lot of the same elements. It felt a little bit more different.
Sure.
So.
Awesome. Any other final thoughts before we start wrapping this thing up?
No. I think we have covered this very well. So
yes, and hopefully you watching or listening have enjoyed this bonus coverage of AEW Battle of the Belts and, for lack of a better positioning, AEW Rampage last night as well. Just a quick note for those of you paying attention and playing the Triple B home game, we will be covering the Royal Rumble coming up in 3 short weeks, also on a Saturday night. So make sure you watch for that video or audio on your favorite podcast service. So, Howie Blues, thanks for making it down.
Yeah.
How much beer you got left?
Yeah, about a third.
Okay. So I guess the show's over before the beer is. So it happens, but mine's gone. So
I tried, folks. I tried.
It's all right. So for those of you who played the DraftKings bet on if Howard was going to finish his beer before the end of the show, I think there was I don't know, plus 300 chance on that. I don't know how the odds work with those things. So you lost. Sorry. Sorry. So he's Howard Blues. Thanks again for coming down. Yeah. Happy to have you here. I'm the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Kidder. Thanks for joining us. If you want to join us on cyberspace, again, beerbluesbs.com, our website, beerbluesbs.com, some sweet merch on there. Buy us a beer and much more, like all of our social medias and all the places that you can watch or listen to this here program. So we'd appreciate you joining there. Smash that sub button and click the thumbs up if you have the option between one or the other. So we would appreciate it. As for this evening, thanks for joining us for this AEW special edition of Beer, Blues, and BS. Make sure that you keep your glass at least half full. Free beer tomorrow. Got some more in there. And we'll catch you on down the old Dusty Tuscan Highway. Have a fantastic rest of your morning, day, night, overnight, weekend, week, all of the above. We'll see you soon.
You have been listening to a UA production of Beer, Blues, and BS. If you enjoyed the show, help others find out about it by rating the show or leaving a review at your podcast listening service of choice. Thanks for listening, and may your glass never be empty. UA Productions presents A Glimpse Behind the Curtain.
I think that should be, I mean, aside from looking absolutely horrible.
Well, we are getting older.
That's true. You have an astute point. A little better?
I think it'll
A
work.
little better. Okay. So that's out as far as she can go. Coke is our sponsor.
It's product placement.
Product
It's
placement.
the
yes.
subliminal message that drink more Coke. Coke, you're welcome.
That's right.